The sound of a pistol cocking near Katherine, Kate Montgomery's ear, made her heart skip a beat as the cold metal of the gun barrel pressed against her temple. The scorching Arizona Territory sun beat down mercilessly as dust swirled around her skirts. The year 1878 proving to be just as unforgiving as the man forcing her to her knees in the middle of Redemption's dusty Main Street. "I said kneel, Miss Montgomery," snarled Silas Blackwood, the notorious outlaw who had terrorized the Arizona Territory for the past 2 years. His breath reeked of whiskey as he shoved her down harder, her knees hitting the packed dirt with a painful thud. "Your father's debts are due, and I aim to collect one way or another." Kate's hands trembled as she steadied herself, the weight of her father's gambling addiction crushing her spirit more than the humiliation of being forced to her knees in front of the entire town. Tears threatened to spill from her eyes, but she refused to give Blackwood the satisfaction of seeing her cry. "My father's debts are not mine to pay," Kate said, her voice surprisingly steady despite her terror. "I've told you I need more time." Blackwood laughed, the sound ugly and harsh in the tense silence that had fallen over the onlookers. "Time's up, sweetheart. Maybe a few days warming my bed will help clear your father's debt." The townspeople of Redemption looked on, faces filled with pity but none willing to challenge Blackwood and his gang of 4 men who lounged against the hitching posts, hands hovering near their weapons. "That's enough." The deep voice cut through the tension like a knife. Kate turned her head to see a tall stranger walking toward them, spurs jingling with each deliberate step. His face was partially obscured by the shadow of his hat, but she could see the determined set of his jaw and the intensity in his eyes. He wore a simple shirt, vest, and denim pants, with a gun belt slung low on his hips. The way he moved told Kate everything she needed to know. This man knew how to handle himself. "This ain't your business, stranger," Blackwood spat, keeping his gun trained on Kate. "Move along if you value your life." The stranger didn't stop his approach. When a man forces a lady to her knees in the middle of the street, it becomes everybody's business. He came to a halt a few paces away, his stance casual but ready. Kate noticed his hand wasn't anywhere near his gun. Yet there was something in his demeanor that radiated danger. "You can stand with me instead," he said, extending his hand toward Kate while his eyes remained fixed on Blackwood. "Who the hell do you think you are?" Blackwood demanded, his face reddening with anger. "Name's Gabriel Hawkins," the stranger replied calmly. "Most folks just call me Gabe." Kate looked from Blackwood to Gabriel, uncertainty keeping her frozen in place. Gabriel's steady gaze finally shifted to her, and the kindness she saw there gave her courage. She reached for his outstretched hand. Blackwood grabbed her arm roughly. "She ain't going nowhere. Her father owes me $500, and I aim to collect." Gabriel's expression hardened. "Remove your hand from the lady, or you'll pull back a stump." "You and what army?" Blackwood sneered, glancing at his men who had straightened up, hands now resting on their weapons. Gabriel sighed as if dealing with a particularly stubborn child. "I don't need an army. Last chance, let her go." Something in his voice must have convinced Blackwood, because he released Kate's arm, though he kept his gun pointed at her. "Fine, but this doesn't change anything. The debt still stands." Gabriel helped Kate to her feet, keeping himself between her and Blackwood. "How about we discuss this like civilized folk? I'm sure we can come to some arrangement that doesn't involve manhandling ladies in the street." Blackwood spat on the ground. $500. "That's the arrangement." Gabriel nodded thoughtfully. $500 it is. I'll pay it." Kate gasped. "No, you can't." Gabriel squeezed her hand gently, silencing her protest. "I have the money. Consider it an investment." Blackwood's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "An investment in what?" "That's between me and the lady," Gabriel replied. "Do we have a deal?" After a tense moment, Blackwood holstered his weapon and held out his hand. Show me the money first. Gabriel reached into his vest pocket and pulled out a small leather pouch. He tossed it to Blackwood, who caught it one-handed and peered inside, counting quickly. Seems we have a deal, Blackwood said finally, tucking the pouch away. His eyes lingered on Kate. You got lucky today, Miss Montgomery. Next time, your knight in dusty boots might not be around. With that, Blackwood signaled to his men, and they mounted their horses, riding out of town in a cloud of dust and bitter laughter. Kate turned to Gabriel, her mind spinning with questions. Why would you do that? You don't even know me. Gabriel adjusted his hat, giving her a better view of his face. He was handsome, with a strong jaw dusted with stubble, and eyes the color of the Arizona sky. A small scar crossed his left eyebrow, hinting at a story she found herself curious to hear. Let's just say I have a particular dislike for men like Blackwood, he answered. Besides, no decent man stands by while a lady is being threatened. But $500. Kate shook her head in disbelief. I have no way to repay you. Gabriel smiled, and it transformed his face, softening the hard edges. I meant what I said about it being an investment. I'm looking to settle in this area, maybe start a ranch. I could use someone who knows the territory, the people. Kate looked around at the dispersing crowd, embarrassment coloring her cheeks as she realized how many had witnessed her humiliation. I should get back to my father. He'll be worried. Allow me to escort you, Gabriel offered, extending his arm. Kate hesitated before taking it. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins, but I should warn you associating with the Montgomerys might not be good for your reputation in redemption. Gabriel chuckled. I've never put much stock in reputations, Miss Montgomery. They're usually wrong. As they walked down the street toward the small house Kate shared with her father on the outskirts of town, she couldn't help but wonder about this mysterious stranger who had come to her rescue. Gabriel Hawkins moved with the confidence of a man who had seen his share of troubles yet remained unbroken by them. His kindness seemed genuine, but experience had taught Kate to be wary of seemingly generous men. Your father, Gabriel said, breaking the silence. Is he ill? Kate's step faltered. How did you know? Blackwood mentioned gambling debts. Most men with families don't gamble away that kind of money unless they're desperate or sick. Kate nodded slowly. Consumption. The doctor says he doesn't have much time left. He's been trying to win enough money for us to move somewhere with a better climate. Somewhere I could find work after he's gone. She laughed bitterly. Instead, he's lost everything we had. Gabriel's expression softened with understanding. I'm sorry. They reached the small, weathered house that had once been a source of pride for the Montgomery family. Now, like her father, it seemed to be slowly dying, the paint peeling and the porch sagging in places. This is where I leave you, Kate said, removing her arm from his. Thank you again for your help, Mr. Hawkins. I won't forget it. Gabriel tipped his hat. I'm staying at the hotel in town. If you need anything, or if Blackwood returns, don't hesitate to find me. Kate nodded, though she had no intention of seeking him out. She had enough troubles without adding a debt of gratitude to a handsome stranger to the list. As Gabriel turned to leave, the front door opened, and Harold Montgomery appeared, leaning heavily on a walking stick. His once robust frame had withered to a skeletal shadow, and his face was gaunt with illness. Katherine? He called, his voice weak. Is everything all right? I heard shouting in town. Kate hurried up the steps to support her father. Everything's fine now, Papa. This is Mr. Gabriel Hawkins. He helped me with a situation in town. Harold's eyes, sunken but still sharp, assessed Gabriel. What situation? Before Kate could formulate a gentle explanation, Gabriel spoke up. Silas Blackwood was causing some trouble. It's been handled. Harold's face drained of what little color it had. Blackwood? Dear God. Katherine, did he hurt you? No, Papa, I'm fine, Kate assured him, shooting Gabriel a grateful look for his discretion. Mr. Hawkins intervened before anything happened. Harold extended a trembling hand toward Gabriel. Then I owe you my gratitude, sir. Please come inside. It's the least I can offer. Gabriel hesitated, looking to Kate for permission. She nodded reluctantly, knowing her father would not take no for an answer. The interior of the Montgomery home was clean but sparse, the furniture worn but cared for. Family photographs adorned the walls, telling the story of happier times. Gabriel removed his hat as he entered, revealing thick brown hair that curled slightly at the ends. Please sit, Harold offered, gesturing to the small sitting area. Katherine, would you mind making some coffee for our guest? Kate nodded and headed to the kitchen, grateful for the moment alone to collect her thoughts. Her hands shook as she prepared the coffee, the events of the day catching up with her. $500. It was an astronomical sum, one she could never hope to repay. What did Gabriel Hawkins really want in return? When she returned with the coffee, she found her father and Gabriel engaged in conversation, her father looking more animated than she had seen him in weeks. Mr. Hawkins was just telling me he's looking to buy the old Jensen property, Harold said as Kate set down the tray. He's planning to raise horses. Kate raised an eyebrow. The Jensen place? It's been abandoned for years. The land is good, but the house is barely standing. Gabriel accepted the cup she offered him. I'm not afraid of hard work, and I've always had a way with horses. The price is right, and the location is perfect. It's 10 miles from town, Kate pointed out. Gabriel smiled. Like I said, perfect. Harold coughed, a deep, rattling sound that had Kate immediately at his side. Gabriel politely looked away as she helped her father through the coughing fit, handing him a handkerchief that came away spotted with blood. Perhaps I should go, Gabriel said, setting down his cup. You need your rest, Mr. Montgomery. Harold waved away his concern. Nonsense. I rest too much as it is. He turned to Kate. Mr. Hawkins mentioned he settled your issue with Blackwood. What exactly happened, Katherine? Kate shot Gabriel a panicked look, but he merely sipped his coffee, leaving her to decide how much to reveal. Blackwood was demanding payment of your debts, she said carefully. He was insistent. Harold closed his eyes, shame evident on his face. And Mr. Hawkins paid him? Yes, Kate admitted softly. All of it? Harold asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Kate nodded, unable to meet her father's eyes. Harold turned to Gabriel. $500 is a considerable sum, Mr. Hawkins. Why would you do that for strangers? Gabriel set down his cup. I believe in helping those in need when I can. Besides, I've had run-ins with Blackwood's type before. Men like him only understand one thing: money. It was worth it to see him leave town with his tail between his legs. Harold studied Gabriel with newfound interest. You're either very wealthy or very foolish, Mr. Hawkins. Gabriel laughed. Perhaps a bit of both. But I meant what I said about it being an investment. I'm new to these parts and could use some local knowledge. Miss Montgomery seems like a capable woman who knows this territory well. Kate bristled at being discussed as if she weren't present. And what exactly would this investment entail, Mr. Hawkins? Gabriel turned to her. I need help getting my ranch established. Someone to help me hire good men, source supplies, maybe even assist with the bookkeeping. I'm offering you a job, Miss Montgomery. Fair pay for fair work. Kate stared at him, suspicion warring with hope. A job would mean income, something they desperately needed with her father's medical expenses. Katherine is an educated woman, Harold said proudly. She taught at the school before my illness required her at home. Gabriel nodded. All the better. What do you say, Miss Montgomery? Would you consider helping me get my ranch up and running? Kate glanced at her father, seeing the hope in his eyes. They needed the money, and if Gabriel was genuine in his offer, it could be the answer to their prayers. I would need to care for my father, she said cautiously. Of course, Gabriel agreed. You could work whatever hours suit you, and I'm happy to come here for consultations when needed. Kate hesitated, still not entirely trusting this stranger's motivations. May I have some time to consider your offer? Gabriel stood, placing his hat back on his head. Take all the time you need. I'll be in town for the next few days finalizing the purchase of the property. He turned to Harold. It was a pleasure meeting you, sir. I hope you feel better soon. Harold shook Gabriel's hand. Thank you for helping my daughter today. Whatever your reasons, I'm grateful. After Gabriel had gone, Kate helped her father back to his bedroom, tucking the blankets around his thin frame. He seems like a good man, Harold said, watching his daughter's face. And we need the money, Katherine. Kate sighed. I know, Papa, but it seems too convenient, doesn't it? A stranger rides into town just when we need help, pays off our debt, and then offers me a job. Harold smiled weakly. Sometimes Providence works in mysterious ways, my dear. Kate kissed her father's forehead. Rest now. We'll talk more later. That night, Kate lay awake, turning Gabriel Hawkins's offer over in her mind. The man was a mystery, appearing out of nowhere like some guardian angel. But she knew better than to believe in angels, especially ones wearing gun belts and cowboy boots. Still, they needed the money, and the job sounded legitimate enough. As dawn broke, Kate made her decision. She would accept Gabriel's offer, but she would be vigilant. If he had ulterior motives, she would discover them before putting herself or her father at risk. 3 days later, Kate found herself riding alongside Gabriel toward the Jensen property. She had accepted his job offer with clear conditions. She would work 3 days a week, the hours would allow her to care for her father, and she would be paid weekly. Gabriel had agreed to her terms without hesitation, further deepening the mystery of the man. The property line starts just past that ridge, Kate said, pointing ahead. The water rights are solid. Jensen made sure of that before he left. The creek runs year-round, even in drought years. Gabriel nodded, taking in the information with obvious interest. What about the winter? Does it get cut off by snow? Not typically. We get snow, but rarely enough to cause problems with water access. The bigger concern is the house itself. It hasn't been maintained in years. They crested the ridge, and the Jensen homestead came into view. The main house was a 2-story structure that had once been impressive but now sagged with neglect. The barn was in better shape, its solid construction having weathered the years more successfully. It has good bones, Gabriel commented as they rode closer. Nothing that can't be fixed with time and effort. Kate looked at him skeptically. It would take a lot of both. Gabriel dismounted in front of the house, tying his horse to a post that remarkably still stood. He offered his hand to help Kate down, and she accepted it, trying to ignore the warmth that spread through her at his touch. Let's have a look inside, he suggested, leading the way up the creaking steps of the porch. The interior of the house was dusty and abandoned, with cobwebs decorating the corners and small animal droppings scattered across the floor. Despite the disrepair, Kate could see what Gabriel meant about good bones. The layout was practical, the room spacious, and most importantly, the structure appeared sound. The roof will need replacing, Kate noted, pointing to water stains on the ceiling. And all the windows should be resealed before winter. Gabriel walked around, testing floorboards and examining walls. Nothing that can't be fixed. The question is whether you think it's worth the effort. Kate was surprised by his question. My opinion hardly matters. It's your investment. Gabriel turned to face her, his expression serious. Your opinion matters a great deal, Miss Montgomery. You know this land, these people. I'm asking you to be honest with me. Is this place worth saving? Kate looked around, trying to see the house through fresh eyes. Despite its current state, she could envision what it might become with care and attention. The large windows would let in beautiful light once cleaned, and the fireplace in the main room was grand enough to warm the entire downstairs. Yes, she said finally. With work, this could be a beautiful home again. Gabriel smiled, seemingly pleased with her answer. Then that's what will make it. They spent the next hour exploring the property, assessing what needed immediate attention and what could wait. Gabriel took notes in a small leather-bound journal, his handwriting surprisingly neat and precise. You mentioned raising horses, Kate said as they examined the barn. Do you have experience with that? Gabriel nodded. I worked on a horse ranch in Texas for several years. Started as a stable boy and worked my way up to foreman. He ran his hand along one of the stall doors. Good horses are always in demand, especially well-trained ones. I'm thinking of specializing in quarter horses. For the cavalry? Kate asked. Among others, ranchers, lawmen, even ladies who prefer a steadier mount than those high-strung Arabians some breeders favor. Kate found herself impressed by his knowledge and practicality. Whatever else Gabriel Hawkins might be, he wasn't just some dreamer with no plan. As they rode back toward town, the sun beginning its descent toward the horizon, Gabriel broke the comfortable silence that had fallen between them. I know you have reservations about me, Miss Montgomery, about my motives. Kate glanced at him, surprised by his directness. Can you blame me? You appeared out of nowhere, paid a substantial debt for a stranger, and then offered me a job. Gabriel chuckled. When you put it that way, I sound rather suspicious. Indeed. He adjusted his hat, considering his words carefully. I came to Arizona looking for a fresh start. I have the means to build something here, something lasting, but I don't have the connections or the local knowledge to do it efficiently. When I saw Blackwood threatening you, I saw an opportunity to help someone in need while potentially gaining an ally. So it was a calculated decision? Kate asked, not sure whether to be offended or impressed by his honesty. Initially, perhaps, Gabriel admitted, but I didn't know you then. Now that I've spent some time with you, I can see you're exactly the kind of person I need: smart, observant, straightforward. Kate felt a blush rising to her cheeks and turned away, hoping he wouldn't notice. And what about Blackwood? Aren't you concerned he'll cause trouble for you? Gabriel's expression darkened. Men like Blackwood are bullies. They prey on those they perceive as weak. He won't bother me. There was something in his tone that made Kate believe him, a quiet confidence that spoke of experiences she could only guess at. Well, Mr. Hawkins, I appreciate your honesty, she said, and I'm willing to give this arrangement a try, at least for now. Gabriel smiled, the expression transforming his face and making her heart flutter traitorously. That's all I ask, Miss Montgomery. The following weeks fell into a rhythm as Kate divided her time between caring for her father and working with Gabriel on establishing his ranch. True to his word, Gabriel was flexible with her schedule, often bringing work to her home when her father was having particularly bad days. Harold Montgomery seemed to gain strength from Gabriel's visits, engaging in discussions about horses and ranching that left him animated and distracted from his pain. Kate found herself grateful for these moments, even as she reminded herself to maintain professional boundaries with her employer. Gabriel proved to be a fair and considerate boss, valuing her input and treating her with respect. He hired local men to work on renovating the house and barn, following her recommendations on who was reliable and skilled. One evening, about a month after their arrangement began, Kate arrived at the ranch to find Gabriel on the porch, his shirt sleeves rolled up and a hammer in his hand. He had been installing new railings, and the results of his labor were evident in the transformed appearance of the porch. "You've been busy," Kate commented, tying her horse to the new hitching post. Gabriel wiped sweat from his brow with his forearm. "Figured I'd get a head start on the small repairs while the men focus on the roof and foundation." Kate climbed the steps, inspecting his handiwork. "I'm impressed. You're quite skilled." "My father was a carpenter," Gabriel explained. "He insisted I learn the trade, even though I was more interested in horses." "Was?" Kate asked gently, noting his use of the past tense. Gabriel's expression clouded. "He passed away when I was 19. Influenza." "I'm sorry," Kate said, understanding all too well the pain of watching a parent slip away. Gabriel nodded his acknowledgement of her sympathy. "How's your father today?" "Better than yesterday. The new medicine Dr. Wilson prescribed seems to help with the coughing, at least." "I'm glad to hear it," Gabriel said, and she could tell he meant it. "I brought the ledgers inside. Thought we could go over the supply orders for next month." They settled at the kitchen table, which Gabriel had salvaged and restored. The room was starting to look livable, with new curtains Kate had sewn hanging in the freshly glazed windows and a sturdy iron stove ready for installation. As they worked through the numbers, Kate found herself stealing glances at Gabriel when he was focused on the ledger. There was something compelling about the intensity with which he approached everything, whether it was building a railing or planning for the future of his ranch. "These prices seem high," Gabriel said, pointing to an entry for lumber. "Is there another supplier we could consider?" Kate leaned closer to look, bringing them shoulder to shoulder. She caught the scent of soap and sunshine on his skin, and something distinctly male that made her pulse quicken. "Peterson is the only mill within 50 miles, she explained, trying to focus on the numbers rather than their proximity. "But I know he gives discounts for large orders. I could speak with him." "I'd appreciate that," Gabriel said, his voice lower than usual. When Kate looked up, she found him watching her, his blue eyes intent in a way that made her breath catch. For a moment, neither of them moved, the air between them charged with unspoken possibilities. Then, as if remembering himself, Gabriel cleared his throat and returned his attention to the ledger. "We should also discuss fencing for the north pasture," he said, his tone deliberately casual. "I'm thinking about bringing in the first horses next month." Kate straightened, putting a proper distance between them. "So soon? The house isn't even finished." Gabriel shrugged. "The barn is ready, and I can live in the bunkhouse with the hands until the house is done. No sense in delaying the actual business." Kate had to admire his practicality. "In that case, we should hire at least 2 more men who know horses. I might have some suggestions." They continued working until the light began to fade, and Kate realized she needed to get back to her father. Gabriel insisted on riding with her, citing the growing darkness and the fact that Blackwood and his men had been spotted in the area again. As they approached the Montgomery home, Kate saw lamplight in the window and felt the familiar relief that her father was still awake and well enough to light the lamps. "Thank you for escorting me," she said as they reached her gate. Gabriel dismounted to help her down, his hands strong and warm at her waist. "It's my pleasure. Same time tomorrow." Kate nodded, acutely aware that his hands lingered a moment longer than necessary before he stepped back. "Good night, Miss Montgomery," he said, tipping his hat. "Good night, Mr. Hawkins," she replied, watching as he mounted his horse and rode back toward town, where he was still staying until the ranch house was habitable. Inside, Kate found her father sitting in his chair by the fire, a book open on his lap. He looked up as she entered, a knowing smile on his thin face. "Was that Gabriel I heard?" he asked. Kate hung her shawl on the peg by the door. "He escorted me home." It's getting dark earlier now. Harold nodded. He's a good man, Katherine. I've been watching him these past weeks. Kate busied herself with preparing her father's evening medicine. He's a good employer, yes? That's not what I meant, and you know it, Harold said gently. I see the way he looks at you when he thinks no one is watching. Kate nearly dropped the medicine bottle. Papa, please. Mr. Hawkins is my employer, nothing more. Harold took the medicine she offered him, swallowing it without complaint. I won't be here much longer, my dear. It brings me comfort to know there might be someone to look after you when I'm gone. Tears sprang to Kate's eyes. Don't talk like that. You're doing better with the new medicine. Harold patted her hand. We both know the truth, Katherine. I've made peace with it. Now I just want to know you'll be all right. Kate kissed her father's forehead, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. The thought of losing him was unbearable, yet she knew it was inevitable, and the idea that Gabriel might have feelings for her beyond their professional relationship was both thrilling and terrifying. That night, as she lay in bed, Kate allowed herself to imagine what a future with Gabriel might look like. The renovated house filled with children, the ranch thriving under their joint care. It was a beautiful dream, but one she hesitated to embrace. She had responsibilities, and Gabriel's intentions, despite her father's observations, remained unclear. The next morning dawned cold and gray, with heavy clouds promising rain. Kate was preparing breakfast when a pounding at the door startled her. She opened it to find one of Gabriel's ranch hands, breathless and agitated. Miss Montgomery, you need to come quick, he said. Mr. Hawkins has been shot. Kate's world tilted on its axis. Shot? How? Where is he? Blackwood and his men ambushed him on the road to the ranch. Doc Wilson's with him now at the hotel. He's asking for you. Without hesitation, Kate grabbed her shawl. Tell my father what's happened when he wakes. I'll send word when I know more. The ride to town seemed endless, though the ranch hand's horse was swift. Rain began to fall, cold drops that mingled with the tears Kate couldn't hold back. The thought of Gabriel injured or worse made her realize with stark clarity that her feelings for him had grown far beyond professional respect. At the hotel, Dr. Wilson met her in the hallway outside Gabriel's room. The elderly physician's expression was grave, his shirt sleeves rolled up and stained with blood. How is he? Kate asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Stable for now, Dr. Wilson replied. The bullet went through his shoulder, missed anything vital. He lost a lot of blood, but he's young and strong. With proper care, he should recover. Kate sagged against the wall in relief. Thank God. Can I see him? Dr. Wilson nodded. He's been asking for you. Just keep it brief, he needs rest. Gabriel lay on the bed, his face pale against the white pillows. His shoulder was heavily bandaged, and his breathing was shallow but steady. His eyes were closed when Kate entered, but they fluttered open at the sound of her footsteps. Kate, he said, using her given name for the first time. You came. She moved to his bedside, taking his hand in hers. Of course I came. What happened? Gabriel winced as he tried to shift position. Blackwood. He and his men were waiting on the road. Said I hadn't paid enough for interfering in his business. Anger flared in Kate's chest. This is my fault. If you hadn't helped me— Don't, Gabriel interrupted, squeezing her hand weakly. I don't regret helping you. I never will. Kate blinked back tears. We need to get the sheriff. Blackwood can't get away with this. Gabriel's eyes darkened. Sheriff Matthews won't help. He's in Blackwood's pocket, that's why I didn't bother reporting the incident before. Then what do we do? Kate asked, frustration coloring her voice. For now, nothing, Gabriel said. I need to heal. Then we'll deal with Blackwood. Kate didn't like the sound of that. What do you mean, deal with? You can't face him again, he'll kill you next time. Gabriel's lips curved in a grim smile. I'm harder to kill than he thinks. Dr. Wilson returned, announcing that Gabriel needed rest. Kate reluctantly released his hand, promising to return later. Outside the hotel, Kate found herself at a loss. Without the sheriff's help, they had no official recourse against Blackwood. And with Gabriel injured, the ranch work would fall behind schedule. She needed to take action to show Gabriel that she could be counted on in a crisis. Decision made, Kate headed for the general store. She would need supplies for the ranch, and she would need to speak with the men Gabriel had hired. Someone had to take charge until Gabriel recovered, and she was determined to prove she was up to the task. The next week passed in a blur of activity as Kate divided her time between caring for her father, visiting Gabriel, and overseeing operations at the ranch. The men, to her relief, accepted her authority without question, seeming to understand that she was acting on Gabriel's behalf. Gabriel improved steadily under Dr. Wilson's care, and by the end of the week, he was sitting up in bed and insisting he could return to the ranch. Absolutely not, Kate told him firmly when he raised the subject during her evening visit. Dr. Wilson says you need at least another week of rest before you can travel. And even then, you'll need to take it easy. Gabriel scowled, looking more like a petulant boy than a grown man. I can rest just as well at the ranch. Better, even. This room is driving me mad. Kate shook her head, trying not to smile at his frustration. The bunkhouse is no place for a man recovering from a gunshot wound, and the main house isn't ready yet. Gabriel's expression softened as he looked at her. You've been running yourself ragged, haven't you? Between your father, the ranch, and visiting me. Kate shrugged, uncomfortable with his concern. I'm managing. Kate, Gabriel said, reaching for her hand. I need to tell you something. Her heart skipped a beat at his serious tone. What is it? Is something wrong? Gabriel shook his head. No, nothing's wrong. It's just, being shot has a way of clarifying things, making a man realize what's important. Kate waited, hardly daring to breathe. I care for you, Gabriel continued, his voice low and intense, more than is appropriate for an employer. I've tried to keep my distance, to maintain a professional relationship, but I can't pretend anymore. Not after nearly dying with words left unsaid. Kate stared at him, emotions warring within her. Joy at his confession, fear for what it might mean, uncertainty about the future. You don't have to say anything now, Gabriel added quickly. I just needed you to know. Kate found her voice at last. I care for you too, Gabriel. But my father, I understand. Gabriel assured her. Your father comes first. I would never ask you to neglect him for my sake. Kate squeezed his hand, grateful for his understanding. When you're recovered, we should talk more about this. About us. Gabriel's smile was like the sun breaking through clouds. I'd like that. Their moment was interrupted by a knock at the door. Dr. Wilson entered, looking apologetic. Miss Montgomery, there's someone here asking for you, he said. Says it's urgent. Kate reluctantly let go of Gabriel's hand. I'll be right back. In the hallway, she found one of her neighbors, Mrs. Peterson, wringing her hands anxiously. It's your father, dear, Mrs. Peterson said. He's taken a turn for the worse. The doctor sent me to fetch you. Kate's blood ran cold. I'll come right away. She returned briefly to Gabriel's room to explain the situation. His concern was immediate and genuine. Go to him, he urged. Don't worry about me or the ranch. Just take care of your father. Kate nodded, grateful for his understanding. She hesitated for a moment, then leaned down and pressed a quick kiss to his cheek. Thank you, she whispered before hurrying away. The scene at home was grim. Dr. Wilson had arrived before her and was administering medicine to her father, whose breathing was labored and painful to hear. The doctor's expression told Kate everything she needed to know. "How long?" she asked quietly when they stepped into the hallway. "Days," Dr. Wilson replied gently. "Maybe a week if he's strong. I'm sorry, Katherine. I've done all I can." Kate nodded, accepting the inevitable with a calm she didn't feel. "Thank you for coming so quickly. I'll check back tomorrow," the doctor promised. "Send for me if there's any change." Kate returned to her father's bedside, taking his thin hand in hers. Harold opened his eyes, recognition flickering in their depths. "Katherine," he whispered, "my beautiful daughter." "I'm here, Papa," she assured him, stroking his forehead. "Rest now." Harold shook his head slightly. "No time for rest. Need to say things while I can." Kate leaned closer to hear his faint voice. "Be happy," Harold urged. "Promise me. Don't waste your life mourning or dwelling in the past." Tears spilled down Kate's cheeks. "I promise, Papa." "The cowboy," Harold continued, a ghost of a smile on his lips. "He's a good man. Let him love you." Kate couldn't speak past the lump in her throat, so she simply nodded, holding her father's hand as he drifted into a restless sleep. For the next 3 days, Kate barely left her father's side. Gabriel sent daily messages, offering support and inquiring after Harold's condition. On the 4th day, Harold Montgomery passed peacefully in his sleep, his daughter's hand clasped in his. The funeral was held 2 days later, a simple service attended by the townsfolk who had known and respected Harold despite his gambling troubles. To Kate's surprise, Gabriel appeared at the cemetery, his arm in a sling but otherwise looking much improved. He stood at the back of the gathering, hat in hand, his presence a silent support that meant more to Kate than any words could express. After the service, as people began to disperse, Gabriel approached her. "I'm so sorry, Kate," he said softly. "Your father was a good man." Kate nodded, tears threatening again. "Thank you for coming. You should be resting." Gabriel's lips quirked in a half-smile. "I've had enough rest. Dr. Wilson cleared me to leave the hotel, though I'm still not supposed to do any heavy lifting." They stood in silence for a moment, the autumn wind rustling the leaves of the oak tree that shaded her father's final resting place. "What will you do now?" Gabriel asked finally. Kate had been asking herself the same question. The house she had shared with her father held too many memories, both happy and painful. Without him, it felt empty, a shell rather than a home. "I don't know," she admitted. "Continue working for you, if the position is still available." "Of course it is," Gabriel assured her. "But I was thinking." He hesitated, uncharacteristically uncertain. "The ranch house is nearly finished. It needs a woman's touch, someone to make it a home." Kate looked at him, trying to understand what he was suggesting. Gabriel took a deep breath. "I know this isn't the right time or place, but I don't want to waste any more time. Life is too uncertain, too precious." He reached for her hand. "I love you, Katherine Montgomery. I think I've loved you since the moment I saw you refusing to break under Blackwood's threats. Would you consider becoming my wife?" Kate stared at him, shock giving way to a warmth that spread through her chest. It was too soon after her father's death for such happiness, yet she could almost hear Harold urging her to seize this chance. "This is very sudden," she said, her voice unsteady. Gabriel nodded. "I know, and I'll understand if you need time to think about it. But I wanted you to know that you're not alone. You have a place with me if you want it." Kate looked into his eyes, seeing nothing but sincerity and love. Her father's last words echoed in her mind. "Let him love you." "Yes," she said simply. Gabriel blinked. "Yes." A smile broke through Kate's grief, small but genuine. "Yes, I'll marry you." Not right away, I need time to mourn my father properly. But yes, Gabriel Hawkins, I will be your wife. The joy that transformed Gabriel's face was like sunshine after a storm. He lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles. I'll wait as long as you need, he promised. And I'll spend every day proving to you that you've made the right choice. 2 months later, on a crisp December morning, Katherine Montgomery became Katherine Hawkins in a small ceremony at the newly renovated ranch house. The property had been transformed under Gabriel's careful attention, with the main house now a warm, inviting home that Kate had indeed put her touch on. Their first weeks as husband and wife were a period of adjustment and discovery. Kate learned that Gabriel snored lightly when exhausted but was otherwise a considerate bedmate. Gabriel discovered Kate's habit of reading late into the night and her unexpected talent for mimicking bird calls. They found rhythm in their shared work, with Gabriel focusing on the horses he had begun to acquire and train, while Kate managed the household and business accounts. Their happiness, however, was shadowed by the continued presence of Silas Blackwood in the territory. Though he had not made any direct moves against them since shooting Gabriel, his men were often seen watching the ranch from a distance, a silent threat that both Kate and Gabriel were acutely aware of. We can't live like this indefinitely, Kate said one evening as they sat on the porch, watching the sunset paint the Arizona sky in shades of orange and gold, always looking over our shoulders, wondering when he'll strike next. Gabriel's arm tightened around her shoulders. I've been thinking the same thing. I've written to an old friend who's now a U.S. Marshal in Tucson. If anyone can help us deal with Blackwood legally, it's him. Kate leaned into his embrace, grateful for his presence. When will he come? He said within the month, Gabriel replied. In the meantime, I've hired 2 more men veterans I trust to help keep watch. Kate nodded, accepting the precaution as necessary. Have I told you today that I love you? Gabriel pretended to consider the question. I believe you mentioned it this morning, but I wouldn't mind hearing it again. Kate smiled, turning to face him. I love you, Gabriel Hawkins. He kissed her softly. And I love you, Katherine Hawkins. Marshal James Callahan arrived 2 weeks later, a tall, stern-faced man with a reputation for bringing order to lawless territories. He listened carefully as Gabriel and Kate explained their history with Blackwood, taking notes in a small book. Blackwood's wanted in 3 territories. Callahan informed them when they had finished. Murder, extortion, armed robbery. The list goes on. Your situation gives us the perfect opportunity to finally bring him in. How? Kate asked. Callahan's plan was simple but risky. They would let it be known that Gabriel was traveling to Tucson on business, leaving Kate alone at the ranch. With Callahan and his deputies hidden on the property, they would wait for Blackwood to make his move. Absolutely not, Gabriel said firmly. I won't use my wife as bait. Kate placed a hand on his arm. It might be our only chance to end this for good. Gabriel shook his head. It's too dangerous. If anything went wrong, nothing will go wrong. Callahan assured him. My men are the best. Blackwood won't get within 10 feet of your wife. After much debate, Gabriel reluctantly agreed to the plan, but with modifications. He would appear to leave but would double back to be present during the trap. Callahan, recognizing the determination in Gabriel's eyes, didn't argue. The plan was set in motion the following week. Gabriel made a show of leaving for Tucson, riding out with saddlebags packed as if for a journey. Kate went about her business as usual, though every nerve was on edge knowing that Blackwood might be watching, waiting for his chance. On the second night, Kate was reading in the parlor when she heard a noise from the kitchen. Heart pounding, she set down her book and moved quietly to the doorway, peering into the darkened room. A figure stood by the back door, silhouetted against the moonlight streaming through the window. Blackwood, "Good evening, Miss Montgomery," he said, his voice carrying the same menace she remembered from their first encounter. "Or should I say Mrs. Hawkins now?" Kate stepped fully into the doorway, forcing herself to appear calm. "What do you want, Blackwood?" He chuckled, the sound sending a chill down her spine. "Just came to collect on an old debt. Your husband may have paid me once, but he still owes me for this." He patted his shoulder, mirroring the location of Gabriel's wound. "My husband isn't here," Kate said, hoping Callahan and his men were in position. "And we owe you nothing." Blackwood moved closer, his face now visible in the lamplight from the parlor. "Oh, I think you do. And since your protector is away, I figured now would be a good time to collect." He reached for her, but before his hand could make contact, the back door burst open, and Callahan's deputies rushed in, guns drawn. At the same moment, Gabriel emerged from the shadowed dining room, his own weapon leveled at Blackwood. "Don't move," Gabriel ordered, his voice cold with barely contained fury. Blackwood froze, his eyes darting between the deputies and Gabriel. For a moment, Kate thought he might surrender, but then his hand moved toward his gun. Before he could draw, Gabriel fired, the shot deafening in the confined space. Blackwood crumpled to the floor, clutching his leg where the bullet had struck. "You'll hang for this?" Blackwood gasped, his face contorted with pain and rage. Callahan stepped forward, holstering his own weapon. "The only one hanging here is you, Blackwood. You're under arrest for multiple counts of murder, attempted murder, extortion, and any other charges I can think of between here and the courthouse." As the deputies hauled Blackwood away, Kate sagged against Gabriel, the tension of the past hours finally catching up with her. He held her tightly, his own heart racing with the knowledge of how close they had come to disaster. "It's over," he murmured into her hair. "He can't hurt us anymore." Kate looked up at him, tears of relief shining in her eyes. "Promise me no more heroics. I want a long, peaceful life with you, Gabriel Hawkins." Gabriel smiled, the worry lines around his eyes softening. "I promise. From now on, the only excitement in our lives will be the kind we choose." And he kept that promise. Over the years that followed, the Hawkins ranch grew and prospered. Their horses became known throughout the territory for their quality and training, with buyers coming from as far as California and Texas. Gabriel and Kate welcomed 2 children, a son they named Harold, after her father, and a daughter, Elizabeth, whose spirited nature matched her mother's. 10 years after their wedding, on a warm spring evening much like the one when they had first met, Gabriel and Kate sat on their porch swing, watching their children play in the yard. "Do you ever think about that day?" Kate asked, her head resting on her husband's shoulder. "When Blackwood forced me to kneel in the street?" Gabriel's arm tightened around her. "Sometimes. I thank God I was there." Kate smiled, remembering. "You told me I could stand with you instead." "Best offer I ever made," Gabriel said, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Best offer I ever accepted," Kate replied, turning to meet his lips with hers. As the Arizona sun set on another day, painting the sky in brilliant hues of red and gold, Katherine Hawkins reflected on the journey that had brought her here, from a woman forced to her knees to one who stood tall beside the man she loved, building a life rich with purpose and joy. In the end, it wasn't Gabriel who had saved her, but their love for each other that had saved them both, giving them the strength to face whatever challenges came their way, standing together.